She stood in his doorway with trembling hands and eyes that carried both desperation and hope, and the first words she spoke shattered the quiet life he had rebuilt from ashes. She said she wanted a baby and asked if he could help. In that single moment, Daniel Foster felt the fragile walls around his heart begin to crack all over again. He had buried his past beneath diapers, school lunches, and sleepless nights, convincing himself that love was a chapter he had already closed. But life, as he was about to learn, has a way of reopening the pages we try hardest to forget. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the unexpected ways life tests our hearts, take a moment right now to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. And tell us in the comments where you're watching from, because stories like this connect us all across cities and continents. Daniel had been a single father for 4 years. After losing his wife, Emily, in a sudden car accident on a rain-soaked highway, he was left with a 3-year-old daughter, Lily, and a grief so heavy it felt like it lived inside his bones. In the beginning, he had moved like a ghost through their small suburban home, feeding Lily, bathing her, reading bedtime stories with a voice that often broke mid-sentence. He learned how to braid hair by watching online tutorials late at night. He learned how to cook pancakes without burning them. He learned how to answer Lily's quiet question about why mommy wasn't coming home without collapsing in front of her. Every morning was a battle against exhaustion, every evening a silent confrontation with loneliness. But Lily's laughter became his oxygen. Her tiny hand in his reminded him that he couldn't fall apart. He built a routine out of survival. He worked as a high school literature teacher, grading papers at the kitchen table while Lily colored beside him. The house, once filled with Emily's music and bright laughter, became quieter, but not empty. Daniel filled it with small traditions. Friday movie nights. Sunday park walks. Birthday cupcakes baked from scratch. He told himself he was enough. He told himself he didn't need anyone else. Then came Sarah Mitchell. Sarah had been Emily's college friend, someone Daniel had met only a handful of times at reunions and holiday dinners. She had always been the bright one in the room, the one with ambitious dreams and a fierce independence that commanded attention. After Emily's funeral, Sarah disappeared from their lives, consumed by her own career in another state. Daniel hadn't thought about her in years. Until she appeared at his door on a cold October evening. She looked different. The confidence was still there, but it was threaded with something fragile. Time had etched fine lines around her eyes, and there was a quiet exhaustion in her posture. Daniel almost didn't recognize her at first. But when she spoke his name, something familiar stirred. She had been diagnosed with a medical condition that threatened her ability to conceive. Years of chasing promotions and building a life that looked perfect on social media had left her with little time for relationships. Now, in her late 30s, she found herself alone, facing the possibility of never becoming a mother. She said she didn't want marriage. She didn't want a complicated romantic entanglement. She just wanted a child. And when she thought about trust, about kindness, about someone who would understand the weight of parenthood, Daniel's name kept coming back to her. Daniel felt as though the air had been knocked out of him. He had spent years protecting his heart from anything that could disrupt Lily's fragile world. The idea of stepping into something so life-altering again terrified him. He thought about the nights he held Lily while she cried for her mother. He thought about how hard he had fought to stabilize their lives. He wasn't sure he had the strength to complicate it. But Sarah's vulnerability did something unexpected. It reminded him of Emily's fierce love for life. It reminded him of dreams deferred and the ache of longing. He saw not just a woman asking for help, but a human being standing at the edge of heartbreak. He told her he needed time. That night, Daniel couldn't sleep. He watched Lily curled up in her bed, her small chest rising and falling, and wondered what kind of future he was building for her. He feared that bringing another child into the world might divide his attention. He feared gossip, judgment, the confusion Lily might feel. But he also imagined Lily having a sibling, someone to share secrets with, someone to stand beside her long after Daniel was gone. Days turned into weeks of conversations, planning, and emotional negotiations. They agreed on boundaries, responsibilities, legal agreements. They promised honesty above all. But what they couldn't plan for were feelings. As Sarah began spending more time at the house, Lily grew attached to her. At first, Daniel watched cautiously from a distance. But he saw how Sarah knelt down to Lily's level, how she listened to her stories about school, how she learned the names of her stuffed animals. One evening, Daniel walked into the living room to find Lily asleep on Sarah's lap, both of them wrapped in a blanket. Something inside him shifted. The journey toward pregnancy was not simple. There were doctor visits, failed attempts, moments of crushing disappointment. Each negative test felt like a personal defeat for Sarah. Daniel saw the way she tried to mask her pain with forced optimism. He began to understand the depth of her longing, the quiet nights she must have spent imagining a child who didn't yet exist. During one particularly hard week, after another failed procedure, Sarah broke down in his kitchen. Not with dramatic sobs, but with silent tears that wouldn't stop falling. Daniel stood there, unsure of the boundaries he had promised to keep. Then he did the simplest thing. He held her. In that embrace, something unspoken passed between them. It wasn't the fiery spark of young romance. It was something steadier, born of shared loss and mutual respect. They were two people who had known emptiness, trying to create something full. Months later, when the test finally showed 2 pink lines, Sarah collapsed into a chair, shaking. Daniel felt his own knees weaken. Lily, not fully understanding, clapped her hands because the adults were smiling and crying at the same time. The house that had once echoed with grief now rang with hope. Pregnancy brought its own challenges. Morning sickness, hospital scares, sleepless anxiety. Daniel found himself driving Sarah to appointments, holding her hand during ultrasounds, feeling the baby kick beneath his palm. Each milestone stitched their lives together more tightly. But fear lingered. What if this arrangement fell apart? What if they hurt each other? What if Lily felt replaced? The answer came unexpectedly one night when Lily crawled into Daniel's bed and whispered that she hoped the baby would have Sarah's smile. She said she liked having Sarah around because the house felt warmer. Daniel realized then that love was not a limited resource. It didn't shrink when shared. It multiplied. When baby Noah was born on a stormy spring morning, Daniel stood beside Sarah in the hospital room, overwhelmed by the tiny cry that filled the air. Holding Noah for the first time, he felt the same fierce protectiveness he had felt with Lily. But this time, it was layered with gratitude rather than grief. They never defined their relationship in traditional terms. They didn't rush into marriage or label what they had. But they built a family out of intention and compassion. They learned to navigate disagreements, to apologize quickly, to put the children first. Slowly, affection deepened into something undeniable. Years later, when Daniel watched Lily teaching Noah how to ride a bike in their driveway, with Sarah cheering from the porch, he understood that the bold, terrifying request at his doorway had not been a disruption. It had been a doorway to healing. Life rarely follows the script we imagine. Sometimes it demands courage in forms we never anticipated. Daniel had thought his story was defined by loss. Instead, it was rewritten by trust. Before this story ends, I have a special request for you. Comment, "Second chances are real," if you believe that even broken chapters can lead to beautiful beginnings. And if this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that love can grow in the most unexpected places, please like, share, and leave a comment to support the channel. Your engagement helps more stories like this reach people who need hope today. Because sometimes, when someone knocks on your door with trembling hands and an impossible question, they're not asking for perfection. They're asking for faith. And sometimes, saying yes doesn't just change their life. It saves yours too.